It's Monday, you're tuned to Axom. That means it's the Monday Club, it's 12:30. And joining me as ever on the Monday Club is Russell Boyce. How are you, Russell?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I enjoyed the football last night. It was an entertaining match, and the best team won. Pity.
Get that smile off your face. Amy, how are you? Are you well?
I'm good, Tony. Yeah, like Russell says, it's been a good weekend for the good guys. Argentina and Italy. It's absolutely fantastic. It was a great day yesterday. A great day.
And like yourself, Amy, I think you won some money betting Italy at the start of the tournament, didn't you? Yeah,
I'm a bit gutted. I've seen a few guys on Twitter have it at 11s. And I thought, that's decent. So they obviously got in a wee bit before me, but it's fantastic. They have, I think, they went through that rough patch. Remember, and they weren't qualifying for tournaments, and that was a massive shock, not qualifying for the World Cup. But there's just the Mancini effect. It's absolutely amazing. And he's just the classiest guy in the world. And it was a great night last night, and I think everybody would be, or 90% of people here would be absolutely buzzing with the result last night.
An 81 winner, Amy, is better than an 81 loser, isn't
exactly.
it? No, so there you go. But first things first, I wanted to a wee bit poignant and a sad start to the broadcast today because we lost a member of the Celtic family, Charlie Gallagher. Now, he is before all of our times, midfielder Charlie Gallagher, but he's widely remembered for being part of the Lisbon Lions squad. He played 171 games for Celtic, scored 32 goals in 12 years, and two things stand out in his career. He was a man that plonked the ball on the head of Billy McNeill to score the winner in the 1965 Scottish Cup final against Dunfermline. The rest is history, as they say. And he also plonked the ball onto the head of Billy McNeill against Vojvodina in 67 in the quarter-final, European Cup final, with 10 seconds to go at Celtic Park. It's important to remember players like Charlie Gallagher because he was a man of the people and fondly remembered by the Celtic support and a big Celtic supporter. And he was also the first Scottish-born player to represent the Republic of Ireland. He gained 2 caps for the Republic of Ireland. Mother and father, I think, hailed from Donegal. So, as always, the thoughts and prayers are with the Gallagher family. Russell and Amy, I think you'd echo those sentiments there, eh?
Absolutely, mate. I think, it's important that when players that have played for Celtic for a considerable period of time, being a huge part of our history, whether the most famous name or not, it doesn't matter, because then when you look back reflectively at those sort of the numbers, you look at the contributions in games that maybe go slightly more under the radar because there was greater highlights. Once you do that, we sort of look back, you go, do you know what? Cheers, Charlie, mate. It was amazing to have had you on board for that long, and best wishes to his family, 100%.
Paul John Diggs posted a photo of the two of them up on social media yesterday. Yep. It looked a cracking picture, and he looked just a happy man, didn't he?
Absolutely. And that's the only, you can take a bit of comfort out of that. It's lovely to see everyone's, connections with him. I think Declan's the same. He's got great stories with the man, but it's a sad time. But as Russell says, it's a time to obviously to reflect, and it may not be the most well-known name when you think of the Lisbon Lions. Maybe not many people automatically go to him, but it's an important part that he played.
He won everything in the Scottish game, and he got a European Cup medal for being part of that squad. That squad made history, and and that's a band of brothers, and he was part of that. And I always say this in these circumstances, the quote that resonates with me is, they never die who live in the hearts they leave behind. I think any Celtic player who has adorned the hoops and has won the hearts and minds of the fans, they deserve that accolade. And Charlie's certainly one of those. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more with that, Tony, mate.
Cool. Right, we'll move on to the rip-roaring, free-scoring, never boring. And it's never boring these days with Celtic. They had a wee pre-season game at the weekend there against Charlton. Another win, they triumphed 2-1. 2 pre-season friendlies, 2 wins. Never read too much into results, so it's always about attitude of certain players for me. But one thing I did notice with Ange, he seems to be keeping faith in one Václav Barkas and 2, Albion Haggerty. Now Haggerty scored again, 2-2. Seems to have his eye in. Seems to have put in a shift in both of those games for the 45s that he played. And Barkas was playing a bit of the sweeper keeper on Saturday, and made a clip that it was too early for him to start the showboating and the Manuel Neuer antics. You know, he should just stick to the basics of keeping the ball out the net. But he seemed that to me is an attitude of confidence, and maybe he has been told by Ange that you're the man, I'm going to persevere. Let's see what you got.
Absolutely. I think, these guys came in with decent pedigrees, more than decent pedigrees, both internationals. One's played in the EPL, the other one played in the Champions League. I find it fascinating, how quickly I felt that they were withdrawn from the side when they were actually doing well. If you only look at Yeti's start, at Celtic, he looked like he was going to be the goal machine that we were looking for. Just looked like all he wants to do is score goals. Be in the 6-yard box, and his finishing looked sharp, albeit he was still gaining match fitness, which became a Lennon term that was used so often, even by October, that I was, we actually, the first ever time I went on Axom, we had a chat about what does match fit even mean? Because how do you get them match fit if you refuse to play them? And how are so many players still not fit enough to even feature, or getting withdrawn from the team? I think Griffiths was probably getting spoke about at that time, but we'll leave that for today. I think with Haggerty, he has a second chance. I think he should be more than capable of scoring a lot of goals in Scottish football. I think the opposition we've played in pre-season is going to mirror, to be fair, some of the other SPL teams that we come up against. He's obviously, more than capable at that sort of level. I liked an interview he did after the first game. I know he was captain in the first pre-season one as well. He came over very, very well, Tony. The way he was talking, he doesn't get bigger than to play for Celtic, or words to that effect, he said, I just wonder if, he's given himself a boot up the backside and has decided, let's make a fist of this, because I certainly think he's got the ability. And who did really shine last season? I think you were referring to it yesterday as a car crash. Who did shine under that management last season? Edouard's numbers look good in terms of goals, but he had his worst season undoubtedly in a Celtic shirt. And you think the ability he's got, even he was affected by what was going on above him or what the atmosphere was. And I just feel that Haggerty right now, if we can wipe the slate clean, don't judge, we could have a player on our hands here that we really, really need going forward, particularly in that up-front position. And like you've touched on, with the squad right now, Ange has got to put confidence in these guys whilst he's not bringing any first-teamers in. You've not got a choice to try and now boost these guys' confidence when we're now sitting, I don't know what the days is. Is it 8 days?
8.
No first-team players, but I know we'll get to that, but he's got no choice but to try and make Haggerty and Barkas feel like they're going to be number one choices going this season and get their confidence up, because it was destroyed last year in what was a car crash, and I agree with you on that season. But I still think they've got obviously a bit of skill. For me, I thought Barkas was the one that was going to be written off. I expect him to be gone by now. The fact he's still there, again, is either because we're not getting business done quickly enough, or the managers came in too late to assess him properly, so he's going to get another go. Whatever it is, we've now got to back him, and I thought he made a good save yesterday as well. And he tipped that one over the bar. I thought it was quick reaction, near post, strong hand. That's 2 saves in 2 games, which is something we didn't see last year either.
Now, Amy, you'll notice I have nail gunned my knees to the chair here. Last week, a lot of people said I was kind of jumping around like something out of only an excuse or chewing the fat. That must make me only a fat excuse for a presenter. I like to think it was more of kind of Bill Shankly, natural enthusiasm. Yeah, but you can't please everybody. Now, speaking of pleasing everybody, Barkas and Haggerty, have they pleased you with their attitude, certainly, in these 2 games that you've in the action that you've seen so far? Again, you don't need too much into it, but you want to see some things from certain players, and those 2 have come to the fore a wee bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ayeti definitely has. I've been really impressed by I think for starters, I think he's looking a lot leaner. He's looking a lot sharper. And as Russell said, who knows maybe what match fitness is, but I think he certainly looks a little bit closer to that than perhaps he did 6-7 months ago. I think he also just looks a bit more eager. I don't know if maybe he's kind of thrived being the older head amongst the younger guys. I think he's maybe liked that little bit of pressure perhaps, which again I'm more than happy to see that he's happy to take that responsibility on. But he seemed to be, it's not like he's went in a huff that the young guys maybe aren't, you know how some of them can get, and they get a bit frustrated when the younger guys come in. But I think he's really took them on and really encouraged them, and I think that's good to see. And then at the other end at Barkas, I think more than anything he's just got that little bit of confidence from his coach, from his manager. I think Ange Postecoglou maybe has been told, like, you've got to work with what you've got right now. That's maybe not ideal, but no matter what, he certainly seems to be getting some sort of tune out of Barkas. He does look a lot more confident in goal, and I know we have to take everything here with a bit of a pinch of salt, or not take it quite so literal, because it is just pre-season. But no matter what, it has been a decent start from both the guys, and I'm really, really quite surprised by Ayeti actually. I know obviously he came in as a Premier League player, but he hadn't really hit the ground running at West Ham like he was expected to. I think there was quite a pedigree he went to them with, and he was maybe expected to do a little bit better than he had done so. But I think here he's got that little bit of confidence about him. I think he's just got a little bit of belief that, I think I could actually score here. I think there was a few times last season he just never, he could have just went that extra half yard just to try and, maybe with a miss, but it was just not that belief and confidence in himself to go and attempt. But I think he's got that now, and there's a little bit, like I said, I'd say a little bit of swagger, and I'm more than happy to see, because you need a little bit of arrogance, a little bit of oomph in yourself, and a little bit of belief to think, no, I can do this.
I just want to say, I think that was a great point, Amy, about him being one of the older members of the team now, because that is true. He's definitely thrived on being given the armband the first game, and being maybe an older head almost, because there's been such an influx of youngsters into the first team the last couple of games. And if that is going to be his attitude going forward, that he wants to be the man to take responsibility, then I'm with you, I'm all for that.
Now, I put it down to maybe what the manager's saying to players, and trying to get the best out of them, and as you say, get a tune out of them. And even to the point where Olivier Ntcham, who looked to be heading out the door, has now declared that he wants to stay. So your eyebrows being raised there, Amy, is like, oh no. But again, if you're buying what the manager's selling and you can get a tune out of you, then that's all fine and well. Now, Olivier Ntcham played 45 minutes on Saturday and didn't set the header alight, and was rightfully copping some flack and some pelters from the guys in the studio. But, Olivier Ntcham really does need to pull the finger out and show the fans something. He owes the fans something, because I think there's a player there lurking somewhere. But again, we've only seen it in fits and starts. No, it's a guy that clipped the ball into the net in the last minute in Rome. He scored a winner in a Rangers game. There is flashes there, but just not consistent enough, Russell. You see him having a long-term future, or you see him as being a fringe player, maybe playing bit parts again?
Very hard to put your finger on that one, because right now you're going to have supporters who feel that his race is run, that his attitude has not been of a level we would expect. We're obviously biased. We think the greatest thing in the world in your life would be to play for Celtic, And when we see people not replicating that when they're getting paid 20 grand for the privilege, or whatever it is a week, you know what I mean? I would just mean thousands of pounds a week. I'm not saying what his actual wage is, because I don't know. But we find things like that frustrating. And I've got a concern that his rapport with the supporters has went so far the other way that one bad game, if it was, say he was being reintegrated to the squad next season, and I just feel that he'll get slaughtered, and I just feel he would get a tighter time than what perhaps someone else would be if they're having a same level of performance. The flip side is, obviously, this is a guy we could have got a lot of money for at once upon a time, and now it might be in our best interest to go, well, we got him to a level he was worth £12 million. If we can get him playing to that level again, is he in the final year of his contract? It's still 2 years ago, I'm not sure. If we can get him back up to that level, I'm not saying we'll be able to sell him for that again, but it'd be great to have him at least playing at a level that was getting interesting, because that means he'd be contributing in a Celtic shirt, which he's just not done for 18 months. I agree with you. I think there is a player in there. I do think, like, you could tell he's got great technique, good vision. He's got, he's had big moments in a Celtic shirt where he's remained ice cool. I don't know if that's because he doesn't care or not. I would just like to see Ollie and Champ, if he is going to play, be given a fair crack of the whip. And I'm not convinced that it's not past the point of no return on that one, and we might just need to accept that we will watch him with skewed vision, do you know what I mean, as opposed to with a clean slate like Ange perhaps is willing to do.
Amy, a redemption shot from Sham? You raised your eyebrows and I was laughing at your kind of reaction when I was talking about that. So, was this series being contracted to 2022 in Sham? So, another year. What's your thoughts, Amy? Can you see him recapturing some of his former glory, or are you a bit?
There's a player in there, there's no doubt about that, I think in the initial glimpses when he first signed, however many years ago that was now, I think there was a few impressive performances. He slotted in well beside Brown. He played that a little bit of a deeper role, and I think we all thought, well, we're going to get some money for this guy, but it's completely went pear-shaped. He's just been so hot and cold. When he's off the boil, he's really off the boil. And I appreciate he sometimes came in for a little bit more flack than he was due, and he was almost kind of the whipping boy. I think he did quite quickly become that. But I think it was his attitude more than anything as well. It was a lot of negative passes, and I think the reason he became the whipping boy is because we all knew how much talent he had and what sort of expectation we all had of him. I think now, as Russell said, I think the rapport with the fans is done and dusted. His attitude, I think, stinks. And I think the only reason he's really going to be kicking around Celtic or saying that he wants to, carry on or rejuvenate a career here is because nobody else wants him. There's not a club out there who want him. He really tried to force through the move, obviously, to Marseille. And Riviera's boss is like, no thanks. Obviously, I'm not saying Incham was the only determining factor there, because there was a lot of messy stuff at Marseille at the time, but it was the fine straw that really broke the camel's back. And like I say, nobody wants him. You're not seeing any rumours right now about who wants Incham, and believe me, my God, Celtic are linked with every single player, or Celtic players are linked with every single club right now. So if anybody wanted Incham, it would be getting put in gossip columns, or somebody would find a rumour link somewhere. But there's nothing. Nobody is impressed by him because of his time at Celtic has been so on and off. And why do you want to sign a player who maybe 50% of the time will turn up, or maybe once every 6 months will get a big goal against Lazio or get a winner against Rangers? Yeah, they are fantastic moments, and nothing will, the moment when we beat Lazio was one of the greatest moments I've ever shared with my dad, but we can't just live off that past glory,
Yeah.
It was a win. It was a fantastic win in Italy, and of course he played a massive part in that, but other than that, like you say, obviously the Rangers win as well. I think it's who were we talking about? Is it Tom Rogic? We were talking about all his good moments, and we all remember like the big moments. And I know you do that with every player, but at least with Rogic as well, there's a few more. This is 2 goals that Incham has scored. For how many years he's been here now? Is it 3 or 4 years? The consistency is just not there from a guy in midfield. When Celtic have had a very strong midfield, he's just not cutting the bill.
I agree with that. I agree with everything that you said there, to be fair. Now, I'll come to you on this, Amy. Russell mentioned a figure there, 12 million. Now, Brentford wanted to sign Christopher Ayer, 12 million up front, 3 million in add-ons, rising to 15 million. And Celtic have incredibly knocked it back because they're holding out for a £15 million up front bid. Now, I don't know if that's a precursor for Brentford to come back in and meet Celtic's asking price, but I was staring incredulously at those figures, and I thought Celtic could be in danger of missing the boat here and missing the train. The man's in the final year of his contract. He previously stated that he had agreement with Celtic that if the right money came in, they would let him go. And we've spoken about Ayer's value a few times on the pod. I think 15 million was a great return for Ayer. I really do. Everybody knows my thoughts on Ayer as a player. And 12 million, 3 million in add-ons, Amy, I can't believe Celtic have knocked that back.
I'm going to say that it's going to sound like I'm contradicting myself. For starters, if you asked me a few months ago, I would have asked for more for Hire. But I think the stage that we're at now, and the biggest factor for me is Chris Hire has came out and said, my Celtic career is ultimately done. The club know our position. We've got this agreement basically in place, I would say, to try to deliver the 10. That's failed. So the player wants out. And I think the underlying factor here is, and the kind of theme that I think all of us across the show sort of share, is that if a player doesn't want to be here, there's no point in having him. I don't want a player here who doesn't want to play for the club. That is a ridiculously good deal that Brentford have offered. I think there'll be a few Celtic fans perhaps even surprised that a Premier League club has even came in for Ajer. I think a few were thinking that it would have been top-end championship for him. It's sheer greed from Celtic's point of view, and I understand that they're maybe trying to hold out for this 15 million, whatever it may be, but I just feel it's sheer greed in the fact that Ajer has publicly came out and said, I don't really want to be here now and I want to pursue other options. We have almost like a gentleman's agreement. And I'm going to get to go here because that's what was told to me last year. It seems sheer greed from Celtic, and it's entered in the final deal. So does he run out his deal, get some more money from Celtic, but lose a year of his development at a crucial stage in his development, and then leave for free? If you ask me or ask anybody, are you really wanting Chris Ajer to leave for free, when we've had all these numbers sort of touted that there's, somebody's been in for 20 million or whatever it may be, all this gossipy rubbish. But that is a fantastic deal that's been put on the table here, and I think it's a really, really poor piece of business from Celtic yet again.
You're right, totally, Amy, as well. Russell, your thoughts on that? I mean, I concur with what Amy said. It's a staggering deal, and I can't understand why Celtic have knocked it back.
I think on the face of it, if you said to me, would you take that, right? Say we didn't know that Celtic could reject it, and you just said, say I offered you 12 million for Ajer with 3 million in add-ons, would you take it? I would say yes, right? But we need to kind of dig a wee bit deeper and go, well, Celtic's, I appreciate, I've maybe made some bad moves in the transfer window, but selling players quickly tends to be something that they do when they get offered money. We've only ever criticised Celtic from a selling perspective of not getting the value that we thought they wanted. You've got to wonder if they've got a further knowledge on this, that there's other clubs sniffing about that maybe they've been linked with or whatever, and they think, no, we know very well if they come in for a bid, they've got the wealth to match the 15 million fee. Why should we sell for 12 when I know in a few weeks we can get them, we can go for 15? There must be some sort of other side to this that Celtic have a wee bit of inside scoop on, whether it be agent talk, whatever it is. I don't know how these things all work. But I feel that they must be rejecting that, not just as a solitary, only club interested sort of transfer negotiation. Because if that was the case, you would be really surprised at turning down that money. Like I say, if you just offered me that amount on the show today without mentioning the fact it was Brentford involved, I read it on Twitter the other day. But if you just said it off the cuff, say last Monday, right before the story broke, I would have took the offer, yes. I would have said yes, I would sell them for that. I think that's a good deal. But we need to wonder why Celtic aren't. There has to be more to it than what we know of right now. And I've got a feeling that they know they can get more from him, and that's why they're insisting on getting more from him, as opposed to taking a punt on for the sake of 12 million and 3 million in add-ons to 15 million up front. It doesn't sound like there's much gain in that unless they know they're actually going to get it.
That may well be the case, Russell, but Newcastle and Norwich have walked away. They've balked at those figures and walked away from a supposed deal. Again, that's the intelligence that you're getting. That's what you're hearing. As you say, could be paper talk, but
yeah,
we'll see what transpires. But I'm like Amy. I just think keeping an unhappy player or an unsettled player whose head is out the door, and to quote JP Mason, then his feet should follow. I just think it's turning into a saga, and you don't want them hanging about, lingering about with that kind of attitude. I just think it might be bad for team morale, moving forward. So that's just the way I see it. But along the strap line, you see, should the lack of backroom and player changes be a concern for Ange Postecoglou? Now we'll go to the latter first. Player changes, Amy, with the exception of Osazu Uragide, no players have came in, no players have gone out. We are 8 days, as Russell said, he didn't want to contemplate it, but it's 8 days, that's the reality. Now, any players coming in any position, that doesn't give you a lot of time to work with them on the training pitch. to get any kind of formation or team shape for the Michelin game. And now you're staring down the barrel of a gun with this European tie. It is coming at you fast. And it doesn't look like there's going to be anybody new coming in. I mean, that's pretty disappointing, is it not? And it's a concern for fans. And I can only assume it must be a huge concern for the manager.
It's definitely a concern for fans. It's a concern for me. It's I understand, I think I've been speaking to a few people about it and they're like, but there's still 8 weeks left of the transfer window, not 8 days sort of thing. But we needed players in for 8 days, How long and how often have we said, it's Celtic's almost 40 that pretty much start Europe, get knocked out of Europe, and then we'll start to sign players at the tail end of that, window, or get knocked out of the Champions League into Europa League. We don't get the players in time. There's how many times have we said we just wish we had them in before that game, just wish we had him in before that game. We knew what position we were in, probably for longer than we ever have before, because obviously losing the league, it came to the realisation that just how poor our squad, really, not even just the starting 11, the squad really was. So we've been talking about players, I think probably since about February, we've been talking about players who we need to be bringing in. And in season
right, 1989, Eddie, one who's emailed into the programme, and thanks for all your emails and Twitter suggestions and YouTube comments. He said, right, what do you think of this? Right back, a goalkeeper, 2 centre-backs, and a left-back needed ASAP. So what's that? 1, 2, 3. He thinks we need 5 players. What's your thoughts on that, Amy? 5 players, a right-back, 2 centre-backs, a goalkeeper, a left-back.
Probably need a left mid as well. And there's potential that we'll probably need I certainly would want in another striker. So I think there's a few more than just that. As it's concerning, it's really worrying because what we're really going to be starting, well, I'd assume next week, with the kind of team that we'd have had last season. And by that, I even mean like I don't see us bleeding on a lot of youth into it because I don't have that sort of confidence. I really don't. So it just feels like this rebuild is almost still on hold. I understand the manager's in, the backroom staff's not really in. There's still not even an announcement of who the club captain is. So it's tough. I don't feel that we've really got behind this new rebuild yet, or it started. Obviously, Mackay's came in as well, but it's not, I think, what we all wanted because, it's what we needed. I feel we're a bit stop-start, kind of like in Cham's career at Celtic. So it's just a bit messy, and yeah, I'm definitely concerned.
Russell, Ryan McGinley comes in. If Griffiths gets 5 or 6 chances in, and Sham deserves another. We've been in this movie before with regards to players before Champions League qualifiers, haven't we? The more things change, the more they stay the same. I was making the point, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I wasn't having a go at Ange. I was talking about those at the top. They just seem to learn at Celtic. And if you've rightfully said you've championed the fact we've been lucky to get a chance at this Champions League qualifier.
Very.
Preparation is everything. But again, Celtic are leaving it to chance again. Do you think they're waiting to see if they can get through this tie, to see and maybe have players on the back burner? But the lack of activity, you have to say it's a concern, and it must be a concern for the manager. I don't care what anybody says.
Totally. I mean, we spoke honestly about free hit in Europe and whether it was a free hit, whether we could take it as a free hit, and a lot of people reacted, poorly to that. They didn't like the idea of it being a free hit. It looks to me Celtic are treating it as a free hit. If we go into those Michelin games, but either of the start 11s we've started in the last 2 pre-season friendlies, then we are doing it on a hope and a prayer or whatever the saying is. Do you know what I mean? It's just I don't understand how. The funniest thing about it all for me, right, is it seems to be when we are getting linked with players, they were already on this list. If that's the case, then why are we not getting business done quicker? The only way I could understand this is if Ange's got his own list and he's saying, right, so we need to then get them scouted, talk about whether you get much bang for their buck with them, etc. And that's what the delay's been. But if we're still using previous lists lying about the drawers that Peter Lowell doesn't look at, then what is going on? And do we really feel we don't need to strengthen? Are we in a complete flap here whilst Ange has seen a lot in the players there that perhaps he's not seen before? that he didn't know was going to be there. I don't understand it. I can't believe that there's not been a first team ready player signed yet. I kind of subscribe to what Jim Orr says. I do think, and I know it sounds really simple, Tim, but I just think we're going to war this year, to be honest with you. I think you're going against a seasoned Rangers team now. You're going against a team that's, flowing with confidence right now, have a manager and a team all on side that are only going to add wee bits to the squad, as opposed to be worrying about, and any player that goes will be on their terms. I think we need to get players that are going to be first team ready and a bit savvy, battle hardened, as Jim calls it. And I'm astounded, absolutely astounded, that we've not signed one player yet that can come into that first team. That by the looks of it, if they do join, again, the quarantine thing, I'm still a bit perplexed by. I've seen some tweets saying they don't need to because they're elite sportsmen. That wasn't my understanding, but I am wrong all the time. But with 8 days to go, what sort of time is that to integrate in a new first team and go, here, by the way, it's Champions League on Tuesday? Wow. Yeah.
Charles Sweeney comes in, Amy, and says, give players a chance under a new manager. Could be transformational. Look at Haggerty already. Yep. For that, Charles. He comes in on YouTube. Would you think to that? Do you think Charles has got a point there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. But I still think, and that's what I was kind of going back to, just what I said there. It's not the fact that last year's team was weak. The squad looked weak, we weren't really able to call upon anybody else, and we were sticking to that same sort of 11 to 15 pool of players. I think it's frightening that we've not signed anybody yet, and I still think I'm probably still just in quite a state of disbelief. And shock. I can't really, shock, exactly. I can't really fathom why. There's that, obviously, there's the chance that we're trying to give the players that we have here a little bit of time. And patience is a virtue and all of this malarkey, but I'm not buying it now. It's 8 days.
I'm not buying it either. They're not buying Indy.
It's crazy.
Russell, we'll throw some names at you here, right? Just talking the defenders, right? Now,
right.
Carol Starfelt, 4 million from Ruben Kazan. Brandon Soppy, 4 million, French 19-year-old from Rennes. Cameron Carter-Vickers from Tottenham. Ben Davis, Liverpool, and Mario Vuskovic. All or nearly all of them been linked with moves to Celtic. Some for big money, 4 and 5 million at a time. But everybody knows now that Celtic are in the mix. Why can't Celtic conclude a deal? And if it's one thing the club over the other side of the city do, they seem to be linked with a player and the day later he signs. They seem to be able to get deals over the line very, very quickly. Now that's 5 players. You would take any one of those 5 players, yet none of them have came in. Yet the links seem to be really strong. There seems to be ongoing. Saul's talks are ongoing. It's there seems to be an Achilles heel with Celtic to conclude a deal for anybody at this moment in time or this recent history.
It's been an ongoing thing for a long time. It's frustrated fans. I remember, when it was Finn Bogason, I think, who played for Heerenveen all those years ago, and he was meant to be the golden ticket to the Champions League, and we couldn't get that over the line. And he was a proven goal scorer, etc., which is what we needed at the time. And since then, you have seen a pattern of it, Tony. I don't think there's any getting away from it. We're not being overly harsh on, Celtic, all the players that are currently there. We as football supporters, right, have it ingrained in us that come the summer, your favourite team signs players. Every club, supporters across the country feels that way. Part of the excitement of there being no league football is, the great thing about when there's pre-season is who we're bringing in. We seem to be consistently bringing in players once the season's began, as Amy says, when it's too late for the Champions League. And it still rankles with me. Do we get the Champions League? Does Celtic understand when they've been at their strongest is when they're entering the Champions League? I've seen so many supporters going, we just get cuffed in there though. See if you compete in the Champions League year on year, those cuffings start becoming fewer and further between because you're bridging that disparity financially by continually qualifying. You're enhancing your squad because you've got more money to spend if you can actually get a deal over the line. But I always look back, the beauty of that Brendan Rodgers era, right? Celtic invested in a manager that cost 9 that cost £9 million to prize away from us alone, that in terms of his contract was the highest paid manager in the history that was paid for all by the Champions League football, and he only made the Champions League 2 out of 3 years, not even every year. We turned over £1 million 2 years in a row. That is when the club was going places. That is what I just can't believe we get this golden ticket. I've just used that term twice now, but we've got that golden ticket for the Champions League by finishing second, which we should never have got in the last 10 years. You wouldn't have got. We have our worst season ever, still get an opportunity to make it, and there's no first team player brought in. That to me is just like, I just wonder, we talk about the players get it at Celtic. That's the terminology we use, Tony, right? Do Celtic get it when it comes to the Champions League? I'm not convinced still. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I'll quote Talking Heads for the millionth time. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. That's how it feels, man.
Before people jump in your back, I'm sure you meant to say 100 million turned over, yeah?
Oh, what did I say?
A million. That's the brilliant. What kind of club's that, Amy? Turning over $1 million a year. That's
over $1 million.
Money by Rose-esque, is it not, Amy? You know what I mean?
Apologies. 100 million is what I was trying to say, Chiso.
Yeah, but I mean, as well as when we're talking about the players and the young guys and giving people a crack, there has been some players that have shown up well. You know, Karamoko looked decent
the
other day, you know, and we've called for Karamoko to be released on everybody, Amy, for a long, long time. This could be his season and his chance to shine. You know, with a manager who likes to play with wide players and actively encourages that kind of thing. So I'm of the opinion, okay, if that's what you're going to do, then you have to play the players that the supporters want to see. And Karamoko's certainly one of them, is he not?
That, and as well as that, if we want to keep a hold of him, we're going to have to play him. You know, he's getting... Was he 13 or something like that when he was first named on the bench? It was crazy, you know. So he's been well in the the shop window really, and everyone's kind of had an eye on him for a long time. He'd done that. It's like that Adidas video. Remember, like the Future Stars thing, or whatever it was a few years ago. So if we don't play him, you know, he's going to start wanting first team football. You'll see other guys his age now as well. Like, I was touted for bigger and better things when I was far, far younger. So it is about time that it is his time. He needs to get onto that pitch and show what he can do. If it be for Celtic or if it be, you know, to get a move away, because I don't think I'd even begrudge him if he did try to get a move away this window. I think Celtic have dealt with him a bit poorly. You know, you have this young guy and you're so proud and promote this young, ridiculous talent who's the next X, Y, and Z, but never really showcase it, never really use it. As you see, how many times and I know supporters, we may think we could be the best manager in the world, but we're not for a reason. But it's just like, wow, this looks like a game destined for Dembele. If we even be just needing a goal, if we beat, and then it's completely other end of the spectrum. Sorry, what about if you're, 4 or 5 up? Why are you not bringing him on, giving him 20 minutes to just have a run at it? And I do think he's been pretty mismanaged at Celtic. So I wouldn't blame him if he tried to, maybe get some game time during pre-season and force a deal out. But I would be much more glad, of course, that if he used this game time to try and push for a move into that first team.
Well, so I look at Karamoko, Dembele, the likes of Bowen, Moffat, Mikey Johnson came on as well the other day, Saturday there. And but another one that showed up well was Liam Shaw. You know, he's did really well in the pre-season friendlies that we've seen so far. So, how many of them would you expect to start next Tuesday? I think all of them have got a chance to start next Tuesday due to a lack of bodies.
I find it interesting. I think it's an interesting point. I mean, I feel like with the likes of Liam Shaw, if they were signed anything from 12 months before, Tony, they would strictly have been Operation Project. Do you know what I mean? But I was kind of feeling that policy was kind of, I don't know if it was always proven particularly successful, or whether you were stunting maybe the development of some players that you were bringing in. Like Luke O'Connell is one that really strikes me. He's came in, having played, I think it was 17 games in the Championship for Bolton. Really impressing their fans. I read other forums and they were losing him. They weren't happy they were losing him. And he's found himself 18 months after joining Celtic playing for Queen's Park in League Two. No disrespect to Queen's Park at all, but the level they're playing at is not EPL Championship standards. So what has he done? Where's his career went in that sort of 24-month period? Probably not developed like we would have hoped. Would it have developed more if he was in and around the first team more often? Of course, you've got competition for places if you're bringing first team ready players in at the same time. It's difficult to balance it. It would be more refreshing to see someone like Shaw actually getting a crack. When we're bringing these guys in and not hearing about them leaving out the back door in 2-3 years' time. Do you know what I mean? Having never really seen them in the first team. I don't think us as Celtic supporters want to have that over us either. Where we've had players that we've kind of hindered their development. Do you know what I mean? That's not what we're all about. Hopefully the coach team will help with that, of course, as well. But there's a worry for me that there's a guy on Twitter called Joe Morgan. I do like him, right? But he's got this awful habit of any tweet I post just saying, it will be Kennedy. That's what he kept posting before the manager was appointed. And what he's now saying is there is an operation of downsizing going on right in front of your very eyes, and you're not seeing it. Now, whilst I've had good tip for tap with him on it, there is a bit of me that worries, right? Because I go, well, if two guys signed from a relegated Sheffield Wednesday that had only made maybe, I don't know how many appearances between them, you'd think under 30, under 40 appearances each. If they're coming in to then be your team to tackle, which is a strong competition across the other side of the city, if this is your signings to take on Champions League qualifiers, perhaps even compete in the Champions League if you even thought of making that qualification step, that would be quite surprising to think they would be seen as being at that level. But now they're here, I want to give them every chance, Tony, in the first team that we can, because I would like to see what they can do. But on paper, you would obviously be going, wow, 2 free transfers from a relegated Sheffield Wednesday, when you're contrasting and comparing what the challenge is ahead this season and what's at stake with the 40 million jackpot we've spoke about so many times. You would have to say that is kind of does look like downsizer on the face of it. So there's a big 8 weeks of the transfer window left. I would just like to see a lot more work done in the next 8 days to hopefully complement the likes of Shaw.
Well, Marty Boy comes in on YouTube comments, Amy, at this rate, I'm concerned we might be competing for second or third place.
We're not doing a good job today, Tony.
What's that?
We're not doing a good job today. Well, last week, everyone loved the positivity train. Now we've got people fearing we're going to finish.
It's not so much it's not positive. It's we're couching this in fact reality, right? That's the reality. We would love nothing better to be positive and say things like Ben Davis arrived tomorrow, you would feel a bit better about the defence. Yep. Say Starfelt arrived tomorrow, you would feel better about the defence. You would say, okay, things are beginning to move. But
they've not.
They're not. Amy, I mean, I go back to it. Nobody out, nobody in, apart from, as Russell says, 2 Sheffield Wednesday players who were relegated last season. And you do have this niggling suspicion at the back of your mind that nothing's going to change. You might have to work with what he's got, and that strikes panic and alarm into you, does it not?
It is. It's, Simon's just off. Well, first of all, it looks like it's movement then, isn't it? And everybody really has been calling for so much change needed, and this is what I'm trying to say, that the rebuild just doesn't seem like it's really kicked off yet, because if you're bringing players in or letting players go, it looks like, wow, right, the club are at least a little bit of aware of the situation we're kind of in. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's stale, and that's what I'm kind of saying, that it's just everything's still just, we're so attached to last season, the season that we all want to detach from so very quickly. It's really tough to, try and remain optimistic, look forward to a Champions League qualifier next week, which, as Russell said, really should be, because, my God, we're so lucky to even be in that position. But you're just having to dwell on that, maybe 6-7 players are probably going to be those who were part of the disaster that occurred last season. It's infuriating, and like I say, I just feel it's very stale, and it's just, you're just so eager for something, just a body in, a body out, just a little bit of movement, just to see, like, right, the ball's rolling, and we're really going to try and put up a better fight than last year.
It's a bit deflating, and I'm beginning to kind of sway with Russell's. Do the board actually get it? We've had enough pops at the board, but, they just, year upon year upon year, Celtic are ill-prepared for qualifiers. They don't bring the right personnel in. They lose to clubs that you think, they shouldn't. William Armstrong comes in on YouTube. There is no panic. We need to look at the fact we are treble winners that were working well under a good manager in Rodgers. Lennon failed the club and the players lost faith. We have the talent. Well, that's a fairly positive spin from William there. I'm not denying that we've got the talent, but you need to improve on that talent year upon year, and constantly evolve as a football club, Russell. You're not talent and then you bring in players that will improve that talent. That's how football clubs tend to work, I think, in my humble opinion.
No, you're right. There was a phrase you made at the time, and I think it's when we still thought Eddie Howe was going to get the job. There you go for Eddie Howe bingo, by the way. And you said, what you do is you lay down a marker. Now, I feel, which Postecoglou, if you're the other side of the city, you're going, well, no one's really heard of him. They're not feeling the fear at all. I would love to have seen him be able to lay down a marker and get a signing in that goes, boom, we mean business. Football's more simple than people think. Sometimes just that psychology of, wow, they're back in business. Whoever that player may be, by the way, I'm not championing anyone in particular. Hopefully it be someone Ange wants first and foremost. But I think we could have done that. Lay down a marker, force them into a move, put doubt in the minds of the team that unfortunately are on top in the battle right now and will be feeling very cushy right now that they will retain said title and their place at the top of Scottish football next year based on what they've seen so far. I would like us to do things like you said, Tony, lay a marker. It sounds so straightforward, so simple. You see with Martin O'Neill, for example, and I think you were saying he hadn't signed a player by this point, either when he took over Celtic. Not that he had a Champions League qualifier looming, but he laid down a marker by signing Chris Sutton, who'd won an English Premier League title and was coming out in peak years. I appreciate that is not, we're not going to get someone of that ilk right now. I would like to see someone come in that is an international player, first team ready, that's a bit of a coup, someone that you go...
Battle hardened to lay down that...
Battle hardened. And someone that makes Scottish football's eyebrows raise a wee bit and go, oh wow, I'm amazed they managed to attract him. Something like that would be a good start, and it would just be, because I know we're going to go into it. I mean, Ange hasn't been able to parade anyone yet, and go, this is now my future, standing next to someone, just to give you that wee sort of feel-good factor. And I know that sounds like, oh, you're oversimplifying things. I don't think it is oversimplifying. I actually think sometimes we overcomplicate things at Celtic. And I just want to quickly say, obviously the ticker says about the backroom staff. That has really surprised me. He's not brought on any backroom staff either, although I know when you use the Martin O'Neill example, there is form for that in the past, apparently.
I'll cut Ange some slack on that in the sense that he said he would assess everything moving forward. Marafchik 25, YouTube commenter, Russell's gone from buses to trains.
Never.
But Amy, there's merit in what Russell's saying there in terms of you want Ange to be standing beside his first signing, because that's the first sign of him putting his stamp on this football team. And you want that first one to be, what is it, a blockbuster in Celtic terms, but maybe someone in the 4 or 5 million range, whoever that may be. But it would be that marker. You say, okay, right, that's the ball rolling. Let's see more of that.
Absolutely. And you want it to be, I know we're saying obviously you want it, Postecoglou's first signing to obviously be his, but you want it to be somebody that's not been linked to Celtic before. I wouldn't want it to be a Ben Davies, or I think we've definitely been linked to Cameron Carter-Vickers before as well, but you want it to be his man, his signing, and just like you say, it's a bit of intent and just getting his stamp on his side, showing that he's the man in charge here. Because it's just, we can see obviously style, and obviously we touched on it a few weeks ago. We really enjoyed the mic'd up session, and obviously now he's getting the bounce games under his belt, but it's time he got to, really, like you say, make his mark, put his foot down. He's not got the backroom staff. It's still the staff he's inherited. So it's about time that he gets his mark. And like I say, it's really to get the rebuild underway, because I still don't believe that it has.
Russell, I mean, the previous comment, I was talking about the positivity with the talent we have, and we're not disputing that. And it's not negative per se, but we're just there is a concern there about a lack of activity, really. And we've got 8 days and we're playing a Champions League qualifier. I'll stress that again, because you said at the top, it's a Champions League qualifier. And there's a same old feeling about it, isn't there? There's that feeling of, knots in the stomach, and thinking we're ill prepared again. And the thing is, we've had previous seasons to learn, get your act together. And, Maraftic 25 comes in, Shaw straight in as number 6 for a run of 12 games to add physicality. I'm not disputing anything like that, because that might be what has to happen, because nobody does come in. But it's, I use the word deflating. It's a lot of the Celtic supporters bought their season tickets hoping that they were going to fund some spending revolution, for want of a better word. But to not have spent any money with 8 days to go before the Michelin game it's pretty disappointing.
No, it just doesn't add up, Tony. You're absolutely right. With regards to what William's saying as well, the only sort of pushback I would do is, William, I agree with his intention of that, his idea that there is still a lot of talent in the squad, but as we've discussed, the treble winners like Chris Hyer, Encham, they want to go, right? So they're not going to be there, and there's no team in the world that finishes 25 points behind their nearest rivals in the league that doesn't need help and first team help, regardless of what they've won before. They need help. They need assistance in that first 11. And if it's going to be Shaw, like Marabchik's saying, in the physicality role, as I say, I'm all for it. I want players to get a chance once they've joined. All I'm saying is you can't deny, when you look at it on the face of it, as going, wow, has that really ticked the box for the competitions we're about to be entering? What his previous said. But that is not me judging him as a player, by the way. I just mean, on the face of it, you would think we'd be trying to shop at a higher, more Marks and Spencers, you know what I mean? And, to me, English League One players, is, I don't know, I don't want to be careful, because we'll be talking about Ivan Toney again, but I just think that I would like to have thought for Champions League and to try and win back a title, you're so far behind in last season, you were going to need a wee bit more than just a couple of Sheffield Wednesday players. No disrespect to them in the slightest, because it's just not, that's not what my point is.
Amy, how many players did you think we would have signed by now? Did you think there would be a bit of a drastic overhaul? Or we're hoping there would be a drastic overhaul, but certainly more than just came in the door.
I'd like 4 or 5 by now. And I think that's a pretty realistic number. How many weeks has Ange been here? Is it 2 weeks now? 3 weeks?
3, I think.
Has it been up here? 3? Yep, I would have had 4 or 5 in by now. Or I'd have liked to have thought that we would have. I definitely thought we'd have 5 by next week, our first game. I really did. I thought we'd have had, a base of Ange's players. And I think many fans actually would have, because again, this date's been in our head for a while. We've known for longer than ever before the areas of weakness, the spine of the team really needs to be refound. And it's rather soul destroying that we still find ourselves in this position, that we are basically a week away, and we can try and remain as optimistic as you like, but you're not going to, no matter who you bring in these next 8 days, you're not going to be able to bed them in enough time to be ready to go and represent Celtic in a Champions League qualifier. It's just not really reasonable or fathomable. So it's a mess, and it's rather worrying, and I don't understand how anybody could try and push that patience as a virtue sort of boat, because this is a little bit worrying.
I was trying to not use words like soul destroying, Amy, because that was kind of negative. I was trying to use kind of dispirited and things like that. There's some kind of positive slantish on it, but I mean, soul destroying kind of covers it there, Amy. I think you're right. I think Celtic supporters won't feel let down, but they'll feel a bit. They'll feel, as Amy said, they expected a bit more from Ange coming in. They had the feel good factor of Ange coming in, and the new slate and all that, and they thought things were going to happen, and kind of inactivity, it's baffling more than anything else, Russell. You can't fathom it out, as Amy said. Why is no one from the club coming out there and saying, look, Andrew's going to have to go with what he has and tell us these things, rather than just let the clock tick down to another major European game without anything much happening. And even if they do sign 4 or 5 in the next few days, it leaves them little time. Well, would they be able to play? Or would they be ready to play? Could you set them up in any kind of shape or formation to play? That time is just beating them. All ends up.
Which is ironic because Neil Lennon left that long ago. It's actually quite incredible. We've had more time this time than ever, and it has been disaster after disaster off the pitch, as much as it was on the pitch last season. It's came back to bite them yet again. Although I do, there's two sides to it. You look at Tom McCann, the way he comes out, he's very self-assured. You can feel, you get the vibe off him, there is a plan, right? You can't help but feel there is a plan. But obviously the evidence you're seeing so far makes you more worried about what this plan actually is, because you would like to have thought the plan would be, I would have thought, new era, new CEO, new manager, boom, not a new first 11, but new energy, new players come with that. Big, not big, Hollywood names, but players of repute that might, make people raise eyebrows, get fans buying in even more than what they have. And again, if you don't want like that angle towards it, let's just look at it from a footballing point of view, like you did, Tony. 8 days to a Champions League game. How do you bed that amount of players in with such a short space of time now? You can't. Why haven't you brought in players before now? What do we know about the quarantine rules? As I say, I'm a wee bit confused by that now, and what the bedding in process is. I'm not quite sure when the deadline is to register players either. Is that already passed? And you can maybe just do 2 more now after the deadline. All these questions, right, have been questions that have been prevalent for weeks, months, however long you want to describe it. Why are we now still talking about them this short? I didn't expect the first team to be finished, by the way, or completely ready. By no means, we all know it was a big job on their hands, but I just would like to see the Champions League getting treated with a wee bit more respect. That's my takeaway from today's show. I think that, with 8 days to go, do we get it with the Champions League? And I'm just not quite sure we do.
You were expected, Amy said 5. I would have expected 5, but at least 2 or 3. Amy certainly, new faces, of repute, as Russell said. But, I was feeling okay to use the word soul destroyed, I'm trying to smile my way through the tears here. And no doubt people will be, you're very negative again. But again, we'll go back to it. It's the reality that's staring us down the face. Next Tuesday, we will go into a European Champions League tie. Can't underemphasise the nature of the competition. Getting back to Russell, we have to, at one point, the penny has to drop. We have to start getting it and treating this competition with the reverence it deserves, as he says. We have to. I don't know when that'll be. Maybe it's in plans moving forward, but it certainly looks as if it's going to be too late for this season.
Absolutely, and I think I came under a little bit of heat at the time because everyone was kind of going, Champions League's a free hit and whatever. But I was off the mindset, no, we've got to go for this. And I think obviously now that's not really realistic. I don't really see that happening. Obviously, I still want it to, and I'm going to be clinging on to that. But it just seems like, we're just not getting it again. To be honest, we are miles off being anywhere near a Champions League club. I think we'll be like that for a few seasons, to be honest. And we're certainly not made any great strides yet, or look to be making any great strides to really improve that way. So we are at best a Europa League side, and I know that's a really hard pill for some people to swallow, but you look at the state of play, it's evident. We are really quite deteriorating on the European front, and the big boys are getting better and better and further away. It's a tough one, it really is, and it's disheartening. You can try and really push that Celtic has to be a club of European football, but we're not treating it that way. It's almost that the board or the club have really accepted, we're not a Champions League club. that mindset that I was just talking about there. It's like they've came to the realisation as well, so they're not putting all their real energy and enthusiasm into it. But if you ask, that's the lucrative bit of signing a player, the European football, the Champions League football, Europa League football, whatever it may be, there's going to be a massive gulf, I would imagine, in a player wanting to play in the Conference League or the Europa League, and I'd say it's probably the same similar gulf than what Europa League to the Champions League would be. And to be honest, it can even be greater. So it's tough. And the fact that we're not getting the players in, and then we're not really pushing the Champions League or Europa League, whatever it may be, I just feel we're limiting ourselves even further to who then we can bring in, because we don't have that European football pool. And I think the fact that there is now this new Conference League, and there's so many clubs and clubs that you would never actually have even expected to be in Europa League before, they are now making it. So it's not the big pool of a European giant, because we're not.
William Armstrong comes in again, Russell, and he says, Ange just kept Kennedy and Strachan for an insight into an unfamiliar environment. He'll bring his own backroom staff when he's a grasp with a club. I might be wrong, but I'm expectant of that. I think a lot of the Celtic supporters were expectant of signings in the close season. Amy says there, Champions League club, we may not be. That's a sad state of affairs. But when you look at it, that's where the points make the prizes. The prizes are in the Champions League. That's where the money is. I mean, I can't understand the thinking behind, what Celtic are doing and not, as you say, tooling up, gearing up, getting back hardened for a Champions League campaign when there is a litany of Champions League qualification failures that they can look back on and say, well, these were the reasons. Let's avoid that. But it seems to be that there's no lessons being learned from the failures of the past, and that's what's sad about it. The clock ticks down, 8 days. In Midtjylland, all three of our faces are like, freeze frame. We'll see what happens. Yeah, but this has been a Celtic State of Mind, the Monday Club. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Amy.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. you.